My in-laws tried to involve CPS because of our rescue dogs.
CPS? Not the fur babies being considered real children.
My mother-in-law texted one of my family members today saying she and my father-in-law thought about calling CPS on me and my spouse, but decided not to. Basically, according to them, we are willfully endangering our baby by having multiple dogs in the household and fostering dogs through a reputable and responsible rescue. All right, so far my gut's telling me the kids are fine.
Yeah.
By the way, this comes from user Significant Try 1044, and if you want to submit your own stories, go to the r/OK Storytime subreddit. So, ever since we were pregnant with said child, they've been making remarks that we need to rehome most of our dogs. We have 6 of our own and 2 fosters. Whoa. Simply due to the number that we have. My spouse and I know it's more dogs than most have, but we live in a rural area, have a massive outdoor area the dogs spend hours in, and don't keep or foster dogs that show any inkling of aggression towards humans. It's not even uncommon to have this many dogs where we live, and some people around us have many more than we do. Our yard is sandy, so the dogs do track in sand onto our hard surface floors that we vacuum daily. Because there is often some sand from letting the dogs in and our counters are cluttered, they consider our house dirty. By comparison, their house is always clean enough you could eat off of their floor. The worst part of all this is they admit CPS wouldn't do anything. Our child is healthy, happy, and clean. Their doctor says they are in perfect health, and the dogs have never so much as accidentally scratched, stepped on, or even looked at them wrong. We don't let the dogs in their bedroom or play area and actively train our dogs so they are good family members, either as our own dog or fosters. The dogs are also well taken care of, up to date on all shots, and friendly. They can be energetic due to their various breeds, but we make sure any rough and tumble play is outside in the designated yard. They've got the designated roughhouse yard. My spouse and I also work in jobs that involve children and have been in serious situations where CPS has been rightfully called. It stings so much that someone would think to use CPS workers to bully us into rehoming our actual dogs and stop fostering just because they admit they don't understand how or why we live the way we do. I think I'm more heartbroken than anything because I can't fathom why someone would hypothetically put us through this.
Just like, why? What?
Even our non-dog loving family members have acknowledged that our dogs are all very friendly and our home is a safe environment for our child. As much as I love each and every one of my furry little toddlers, the dogs, I know they are animals and would never keep one if I had any suspicion they could hurt my child or their friends. I know CPS wouldn't actually remove our child, but I can't stop wondering if every knock or phone call is from a worker starting an investigation. Would I be an a-hole if I ceased contact with my mother-in-law and father-in-law? I don't know if I even have anything to say to them. I don't know if I can even look at them. I can't even sleep because I'm worried they'll end up calling, even though they said they wouldn't. Why would they even mention this? How can they say they love us and not acknowledge how much an investigation into a false allegation could affect our child, our jobs, everything, our whole life? Sorry if this is all over the place. If anyone even reads this, we're reading it. I know they never really liked us since my spouse and I are very different from them. I just never thought they'd try to do this to us, let alone trying to use my family against us too. But see, that's the thing, and they didn't. But they said they would. I am going no contact with the in-laws for the foreseeable future, as is our child.
Cool. Right.
Fair.
There we go.
Fair. Fair. My spouse is leaning towards no contact, but at the very least, severely limiting contact. They have spent all day today after our phone call last night.
Ooh.
So they did confront and did directly communicate about this.
I guess.
They have spent all day today insisting that they weren't actually threatening to call CPS. They refused to understand why we were both so upset and kept trying to turn the blame back around on us, saying we weren't listening to them and the CPS comments weren't a big deal. This unfortunately fits a larger pattern of them trying to control our lives and being angry or disappointed or annoyed that we just have very different lives. The fact my spouse and I are very equal and independent people is a constant issue they keep dancing around. Nothing about us is traditional, And despite what they claim, they don't love that about us. Most disagreements or attempts to control us come from these differences and why we should actually act more like them. Also, to address some questions in the comments, we do live in a rural area controlled by the county, not the city. There are no restrictions on animals as long as they are healthy and not exotic. We have a lot of dogs for a city, but out here, people aren't even surprised when we say we have 6. Many of them have at least 3 and then a variety of other animals on their respective properties. We just didn't want other animals as we've been involved in dog rescue for several years.
Yeah.
Our household operates more like a small farm than a typical suburban household. My spouse and my own work schedules allow our household to operate the way it does. I won't go into specifics, but I will say the way it's arranged allows one or the other of us to care for our child at home versus putting them in daycare. This also makes daily cleaning a lot more feasible, along with my spouse and I being very equal partners. And we have a second update.
All right.
Have we reopened the door here? Is that what the second update is? I don't know.
Let's find out.
Update number 2. I genuinely appreciated the outside perspectives, including those who rightfully question our sanity and the legality of owning 6 dogs and still fostering. LOL. I will say many people do not have reputable sources for determining the number of animals you're allowed to own. Just as an FYI, my state, county, and local city do not have a limit on dogs, and I do not live in any of the states mentioned by commenters in the first post. I assist with an animal nonprofit in addition to the fostering, so I am aware of any current and proposed changes to ownership laws for my area. I also live well outside the nearest city limits and couldn't imagine having this many animals and not having some dedicated land for them. I freaking love you, OP. None of them are Great Danes, but only one of them is a quote-unquote small breed of dog. My spouse, child, and myself are no contact with mother-in-law and father-in-law for the foreseeable future. They didn't call CPS, but refused to take responsibility and fell into their typical pattern of gaslighting to make my spouse and I look childish and spiteful. This unfortunately follows the pattern of behavior that made my spouse start therapy shortly before the birth of our child. They frequently say mean, hurtful, or borderline derogatory comments and then turn around and deny ever saying them. If we have proof, such as texts, they'll insist they were joking or they misunderstood the context, even though the context is pretty effing clear. A notable example is mother-in-law telling my spouse they needed to keep me under control when my spouse and I were planning our wedding because basically every aspect of the wedding was non-traditional, and this was a huge offense to my mother-in-law. This is despite the fact that my mother-in-law is not even religious. Nothing about our wedding was scandalous or offensive, and my partner and I decided on every aspect of our wedding together. She, to this day, tells us it was a joke or that she didn't actually say it, just depending on her mood.
Interesting.
Was it a joke or was it literally, you gotta pick one? Did you say it or did you not?
Those are mutually exclusive.
Despite her ranting to other family members about it and everyone else remembering it as being completely sincere, she will pull that stuff. It's easier to see this now that my spouse and I aren't dealing with the immediate after effects of the CPS comment to my family. It took us by surprise and it hurt so much this time because we genuinely thought my spouse's parents had changed. I was really trying to overlook the past so my child and future children have a good relationship with them. The fact, this time around, they basically said that they don't like us because we're too different from them and too hard to understand was a really bitter pill to swallow. Maybe it's the fact that my family is so close, but I don't understand how someone can say that and in the next breath say they love us entirely. We're not even that out there or extremist in any sense. We get along with my huge extended family and they come in just about every shade, flavor, and personality under the sun. I can't let my child or future children think love from their family is conditional on them being carbon copies of anyone, including their grandparents. Apparently, minor differences in how we spend our free time. They like binge-watching TV and staying in bed and breakfast. We like board games and volunteering, for example. And our personal style choices is too much for them to handle. Despite being self-proclaimed feminists and staunchly non-religious, apparently men still aren't supposed to have long hair or wear nail polish, and women should wear makeup, or at least that's how their children and their spouses are supposed to be. I guess the best news out of this is we are now closer with the rest of my spouse's family. They were horrified about what mother-in-law and father-in-law said, and even more appalled by the gaslighting after. We weren't expecting the support and were trying to prepare ourselves from being cut off from everyone, but we are so grateful that's not the case. And by the way, you can be grateful that we have full episodes with stories like this on Spotify and iHeartRadio and Apple Podcasts. Wherever you listen to podcasts, just search OK Storytime, and you can listen to 1,250 plus hours of a yapping. I have grown to love my spouse's family even more than I already did, and I'm so thankful that my spouse does have love and support from their side of the family. While my parents adore my spouse as their own, I know it means a lot to my spouse to have their own family members too. Not to mention our few close but dear friends that have been eager for us to have kids so they can be the best aunts and uncles they possibly can. I don't wish any ill on my in-laws, and I'm almost sad to say our lives have been calmer and happier without them in it. Can't control their choices, and I can't stand to let them hurt my spouse any longer or possibly start doing the same things to our child. They can make their own choices and live with those consequences.
Wow. There you go.
Yes. I love this philosophy.
Yeah.
Because it's like, truly, it's like people are going to make their own choices, and then people are going to have to deal with their consequences.
Exactly.
It's like you cannot control their choices. You cannot control their reactions. All that you can do is control your truth and the way you operate.
Exactly.
Wha-bam.
Wha-bam.
Nice. But that is the end of that story.